Radiant Souls. I am your host, Angela Ahimsa, and you've tuned in to Feed Your Chakras. Today's guest is Bahareh. She is a corporate leader, a life alignment coach, and the founder of Sage in You Coaching. She's known as the Sage in the system because she brings consciousness, compassion, and clarity into spaces that often value speed over soul. So in this episode, we're going to explore how alignment amplifies performance, leadership, and purpose. Not by leaving the corporate world, but by elevating it from within. We're going to dive into energy, efficiency, and chakra-informed leadership and what it truly means to succeed from the inside out. So take a deep breath and let's awaken the leader within. Thank you so much for joining me, Sage.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Yes. So just a little background, Sage and I, we were actually in a research group together. So if we weren't in that group together, we probably wouldn't have met, but we did a few groups together, just talking, and she's also publishing a book. So we had a little chat, and then we found out, even though we're on like completely different niches, we have a lot of overlap. So we thought it would be really interesting to have this conscious conversation today. So I'm really excited about it.
Same here. We're all connected as humans anyhow.
Yeah. So let's just come in, because I find the Sage in the system a very intriguing and provocative name. What inspired you to bridge spirituality and corporate leadership in what you do?
Yeah. So thank you so much. Like Sage in the system was actually born from my own very real experience, right? I mean, I grew up, I'm from Middle East, and I grew up learning to like get educated, like really achieve a lot of academia and get a job that is safe and secure, and then work in a corporate world. All that is good, right? Because now it's like you're somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up doing all of that. I got 2 master's degrees. I got into the corporate world. And then I worked in a fast-paced, high-pressure environment where people looked successful on paper, but sometimes they felt exhausted or numb or disconnected inside, right? And this is not something that you can really pick on, like if you're an autopilot, which I was for years, right? I just performed and performed and performed, and I was one of them. So for years, I led what I call my corporate ego. And that was part of me that believed that I continuously have to do more, deliver more, prove more, help more, solve more, right? Do things that make me recognized, but not necessarily feel aligned. And then the truth was that the more I proved, the less I felt, right? So that's when the shift happened, right? I started noticing something small, but very powerful. And that's like when I started slowing down, everybody else around me slowed down. When I started listening deeply, people opened up to me. When I grounded myself, conversations became much deeper and easier and more honest, right? Mm-hmm. So I realized that people didn't really need more pressure, because they already have a lot of it, but they needed more presence. And this is, more presence. This is when the Sage was born. And when I look at Sage is it's like that part of me that leads with wisdom and not urgency. The part that is clear, not noisy. And the part that is aligned, not just performing, right? So that realization was that, and then I realized, okay, I love my corporate job because it feeds a part of me, the leadership structure and all that stuff. But then I realized that I don't have to leave my corporate system to be a Sage. I can actually embody the Sage inside the system, right? Yeah. So that's why I call myself the Sage in the system.
You're in the matrix.
Yes, living in the matrix. Yeah. Like someone who brings the calm and clarity on one side and consciousness into an environment that a lot of time loses sight of it because it's fast, right?
Very out of alignment in many aspects. It's very interesting too, because it's just like, by holding that grounded presence, and it's like, you create that ripple first within and then it ripples outwards. What you actually just said reminded me, I can't remember the name of the book, but it was about how, patients were so frustrated because they waited so long to see doctors, and then the doctor would come in, talk for 5 minutes and then leave. And they just felt it was dismissed and they weren't, recognized. And then one doctor just would come in and sit down and didn't spend any more time, but just the whole perception of that, because their grounded presence, they felt more of a connection because they're not towering over this person. And it's just those little subtle nuances and how, what an impact it can make somebody feel heard or understood. You know what I mean? So good on you.
That's what we're missing these days.
Yes. Okay, so that leads me to my next question. What does soulful alignment actually look like in a fast-paced corporate environment? Because I know that a lot of us, people, are often in flight. Like they're always trying to just get to the next meeting, get everything done, answer all the emails. What does soulful alignment look like in contrast?
So soulful alignment is like taking a moment, right?
You're already getting grounded. I love it. Let's do this.
Right? Like taking a moment, taking a moment before reacting, taking a moment before responding, making people feel that they're seen, that they're heard, right? That their opinions matter, right? Mm-hmm. So a funny thing is that I'm inherently a solutionary. Like people come to me to solution. People come to me to remove obstacles. People come to me to like drive and lead and do all that stuff, right? And I used to be the first one speaking. Now I'm probably the last one speaking in the room. Right? That's the big shift for me. That's all. Because I don't feel the need to talk. Mm-hmm. I feel the need to be there, to be present, to empower. So mm-hmm. everybody else around me feels safe to talk.
Yes.
That's the biggest shift, I would say.
Mm-hmm. I like that because it's non-egoic then. It's like you're here basically for the team to hold space, and that's where the alignment is. It's not you operating from this, I got to prove myself.
I've never done that. I'm over it.
Okay. So many people see spirituality and corporate success as complete opposites. Mm-hmm. How can alignment actually enhance our performance and our efficiency as a result of this alignment or this kind of higher connection?
Yeah, I actually feel there is no separation between the two at all.
Yeah, there's no separation between spirituality and anything.
Yeah, real spirituality to me is awareness.
Mm-hmm. Consciousness.
Right? That consciousness and awareness, right? So it's awareness of yourself, knowing who you are, your actions, your impact, your tone, your presence, your intentions, right? Mm-hmm. And when you translate that to the corporate environment, these are exact same things, right? So one of the things that when I coach people or mentor like colleagues at work, and they tell me like, what are the, the things that a leader needs to know? I said, you need to be self-aware. You need to be situationally aware. You need to be organizationally aware. Mm-hmm. Right? So I need to know myself so I can manage myself in every situation. I need to know what is in my area of control, what is in my area of influence, what can I where do I need to lean in, where do I need to lean back, right? All that stuff is awareness. Knowing as to who am I talking to? Am I talking to leadership, like senior leadership? Am I talking to my peers? Am I talking to my subordinates? Who am I talking to? So mm-hmm. I'm situationally aware. And then also be organizationally aware, because then organization is a culture, right? So what is accepted, what is not accepted? What is in my code of ethics? What is not in my code of? How do I show up as a leader, right? So that is all awareness. It's just a different language. So I don't necessarily bring a spirituality in work through language. Like I don't go tell people, oh, your chakras are not balanced. Go now sit down and meditation. I'm like, I don't do that.
Balance on that solar plexus.
That's solar plexus, right? But I bring that through how I show up, mm-hmm. right? I don't need to say it out loud. I just need to embody it.
Yes.
So when I show up grounded, I tell people that my root chakra, like I feel safe. Mm-hmm. I feel safe. Everybody around me is going to feel safe.
Yeah. That's very well said. And that was actually going to be my next question, is like, how does that inner balance affect the leadership? But you just answered that. So how could other corporate leaders take some of these practical steps, or what are the practical steps, mind you, that they could do to cultivate more alignment within their teams?
So I believe in the fact that we are 100% responsible for our actions. Like when we take responsibility for everything, it gives us power. It empowers us, right? Whenever we don't take responsibility, we give our power away. We become victim of our environment, right? So from a leadership perspective, the most important thing, in my opinion, is that as leaders, we need to know our values. We need to know the values of our organization. We need to understand how our values align with those, right? Mm-hmm. And again, there's going to be differences, there's going to be similarities, right? Because everybody has different values. But the more we can align the two together, right, the easier it's going to be to integrate the two. So that's one thing. The other thing is that once we understand our values, then we have to understand how it shows up in our energy system, right? How do we show up? How do we act? How do we make decisions? Are we making aligned actions? When do we surrender? Surrender is another one. I take actions, and I trust that my actions are going to lead the results that are meant to be. So when we show up at that point, right, it creates that balance in our energy systems, and people pick up on that because energy of leaders are felt before they open their mouth, before they talk about something, right? So when they shift more into a balance for leading, when it comes to leading, when they're softer, when they're clearer, when they speak less, when they're more grounded, right? So the relationships at work change because then people come to them not for decisions. They come to them for awareness, for steadiness, right? So that has been my own experience, right? Inner balance, in my opinion, creates that outer trust. Yeah. And the trust is the foundation of any healthy workspace.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that a lot of leaders, just because of the high stress and maybe they're chasing achievement over choosing alignment, do you find that it deregulates their nervous system?
It does. Let's be real. These concepts of spirituality is not close to heart for everyone. I talk to so many people, and it's not even part of their life. There was a time that it was not even part of my life, right? And then if we are on autopilot, right? So you get up every morning, you grab your coffee, your meetings start at 9 o'clock, and you continuously have to make decisions, and you don't have a morning ritual for you to ground yourself and come back to yourself, right? So we can't expect anything else. Because a lot of people are working on autopilot. That's number one. Number two is that a lot of us grew up with values that are not ours, right? So what happens is the reality is that I grew up with values that I was told by my parents, by my community, by my society, right? That I need to be a certain person. I need to dim my light, right? For other people to feel good around me. So that has always, and that is not sustainable. We cannot live the values of others, or we can't project the values of others into our lives, and we can't inject our values to other people's lives. You can do that for a short period of time, and that's part of our versatility, right? But it's not sustainable for a long time. That's why a lot of successful people, on paper, they look really good, including myself for a long time. But then you always quietly ask, is that all that I'm going to do? Is that all there is? Right? Why am I feeling off? Why am I not happy? Why am I my happiness, that recognition is temporarily, right? So I believe that it is key. Sure.
And that's the beauty of alignment. It's when it feels good on the inside and looks good on the outside. You did mention on how you weren't particularly spiritual before. And I feel that, there's actually a shift as people are trying to kind of lean towards more purpose and alignment. But for the people that feels drawn to alignment, but doesn't want to be they still have that ooh, is this too spiritual or woo-woo? How would you introduce consciousness to them in a grounded and science-backed, evidence-based way?
So usually I get when I talk to people, again, I'm going to go back to that situational awareness, right? Not everybody is the same. There are people in the corporate world that are spiritual, that have spiritual practices, and there are some that simply don't know, right? So some cases I do get some hesitation at first, not because people reject the ideas, because simply they don't know it or they don't understand it, right? So, and that resistance usually comes from the language and not the actual concept, right? Because deep down, everybody knows we are spiritual beings having human experience. I mean, that's in everybody. They inherently know it, whether they agree with it or they're aware of it. That's a different story. Inherently, we know we are not just this body; we're more than this body, right? So when people hear words like energy or alignment, sometimes they think it's too abstract. So what I try to do, I try to translate things instead of saying, "Oh, let's ground your energy." Like they're gonna look at me like, "What is she talking about?" Right? Let's just take us 10 seconds to reset so we can think clearly.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. As simple as that. Let's pause for 10 seconds. We're just doing that right now. Like right there, that 10 seconds shifts perspective, right? Or instead of me coming to them say, "Oh, let's align your sacral center." I don't say that. I'm like, what kind of support do you need to collaborate more effortlessly? So that's the type of conversation I have, right? Instead of saying, "Oh, you're in survival mode right now." Like, I don't know.
I can see your root chakra is severely imbalanced.
And then I say, okay, let's take a moment and go back to the space where you feel safe to make decisions.
Yeah, I love that. It's meeting people where they're at in their own language.
In their own language. And then when they experience the impact, then they're much calmer. They're more empowered. They're easier to talk about. Like one of the things I tell people, like that has to do with throat chakra. Like people show up in meetings and they say, "Oh, my 2 cents."
Mm-hmm.
That is statement on its own. It tells me that there's something wrong with the throat chakra because they're not feeling empowered to come and say, "I believe this is the right answer." So they shift it to say my 2 cents, or I feel, or I think. Right? It changes. When it comes to leadership, those words matter. Like if I show up and say, "Oh, my 2 cents is like," it means that I don't believe in myself. I don't believe in the power of my voice. I don't believe in my, expertise. So changing like slight things can balance. And it doesn't have to be major shift. It can be tiny. But it's steady.
Yeah, speaking in the affirmative, as we know how much that works. So, okay, that's an interesting thing about the throat chakra. Do you notice any specific chakra that might be blocked in most corporate leaders? I have my own assumptions of what they would be, but I'm just interested to hear what you'd say.
I can talk about every single chakra.
Okay, we're going to get to that. Okay, actually, you know what? Let's just do that, shall we? Let's just dive in to the corporate system and dissect the chakra system in relation, like each energy and what it represents in relation to human potential within the corporate organization.
I like to call them, again, not to use the word chakra or energy center that is not familiar. I would say like centers of human capacity.
Yeah, or Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. That's how I describe it to people.
Yeah, exactly. Human capacity.
Translated into their language.
In their language that is like more relatable. Yeah. So when it comes to the root chakra, I would say that's their center of stability and safety. The capacity to feel stable and safe, right?
Also, it's the foundation for monetary, because that is a stability.
Exactly. In that. Stability, right? So if I translate it to a company, like a corporate environment, that would be trust. That would be job security. Yeah. That would be psychological safety, which is a big term these days, right? Clarity of expectations. So when these things are weak, people operate from fear.
Yeah.
Right? Which is false evidence appearing real. Right? Not from their creativity. So an example is that corporates go through change. Change is a constant part of, everybody's life. And it's no different, right? So when people go through those changes, if the root chakra is not, if this center of stability and safety is not balanced, people shut down. People become unstable, right? Yeah. So it is very
operating from that scarcity mindset, which causes them to sabotage or
exactly. But once they learn how to balance this area, and feel that stability and safety within themselves, right? So it helps them bring clarity during the times of instability on the outside, right? So they can find answers within themselves when things are uncertain. So they can relax. And a lot of the safety around this energy system goes to our childhood. Again, it goes to our childhood. It goes to the values that are
imposed. So many people are operating from childhood traumas that are unresolved, and this is literally the chaos in our society today.
And one thing I tell people is that we are not here to fix. There's nothing to fix. You're perfect just as you are. It is to bring awareness to the areas that if you're aware, they're not going to get triggered because they're not part of your shadow. I don't know how much you know about like shadows and archetypes and all that stuff, right? So what happens is when we ignore these things, it goes to our shadow. And then it shows up when we least expect it. But when you bring light and you bring awareness to it, then the next time it happens, you're like, oh, okay, I see that my stability is being questioned here. What is my role in this? How can I shift this now? What are the micro actions I can take to kind of shift from fear to trust?
Yeah.
Right.
And what she's saying in relation to shadows, for anybody that isn't aware of it, all of us, we have, our side that we like to share, but then we have that secretive side, or we have, bad habits or addictions that we try to hide. So that would be a shadow self. And the chakras also have a shadow and a light aspect. The light aspect is when you feel safe and secure and loved. And then there's the shadow aspect in which maybe you were abandoned and you carrying those wounds forward where you think everyone's going to abandon you subconsciously. So that's a little breakdown of that, just to make it a little more clear.
It's a fascinating concept.
It's so important to do the shadow work. Everybody avoids it.
I live in my shadow.
And that's another thing. People feel shamed about their shadows too, but we all have them, and it's a beautiful thing when you can shine light on your own shadow and learn to work with that, because it's there for a reason as well, right? It's there for our growth.
And you can turn that darkness to actually golden shadow. We can talk about that in another episode.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, golden shadow is like when all the things that are prospects for me, why am I not taking the next step, right? So, so if we go to the next one, we talk about sacral chakra.
Yes, let's go on to the sacral chakra.
Sacral chakra is creativity and collaboration, right? So,
and also passion and emotions.
Emotions too. This is I'm bringing everything to the context of like the corporate world, right? Okay. So in corporate world, the way you can do that, for you to be creative, emotions are involved. For you to collaborate, emotions are involved, right? So this is the essence of teamwork. It's the essence of relationship building. It's the essence of inclusion, emotional intelligence, healthy boundaries, innovation, right? So if this center is blocked, people start operating in silo. And there's passive resistance. They may not talk about it, but they don't participate, right? So an example is that, sometimes in meetings where I know I have all kinds of people from different backgrounds and some are technology, some are business, like different people, I just ask a simple question. What is one thing affecting your energy today? Like, how are you? That's it. How are you choosing to show up in this workshop? Right? That just gives them a chance to kind of take a pause. Everything goes back to the pause. They take a pause and say, I'm here to work with my teammates. I'm here to create with them. I'm here to be part of something bigger, right? That simple question and the pause that comes after it just gives people a chance to pause. Because what happens is, like in the corporate world, everything is fast. You go from one meeting to another. Like my calendar some days is crazy. I have to put people on mute to take a bio break sometimes, right? So that's how fast it can get, right? So just bringing that like 10 seconds of grounding to give people a chance to turn internally, that helps them.
Yeah, I love that. And I like that you said emotional intelligence, because that's a very key factor. It's also our pleasure center. And do you think that, it would really strengthen the corporate system if people found a little more enjoyment in what they did?
Yeah.
Like we learn our best when we're having fun, and it's like everything became unfun as soon as we finished like grade school.
So this is, I'm going to counter that, right?
Okay.
So I believe that we are all responsible for our life and our own happiness and our own pleasure, right? So I can't expect my work to bring pleasure in my life. I am responsible to bring pleasure to what I do.
Yeah,
right?
I agree, but I also think that you can choose things that bring you pleasure more, you know.
Of course. So when you bring pleasure, I always try to find aspects of my job that are satisfying me. Right? And we always have a job that there are parts of our jobs we don't necessarily like, but that is part of the job, right? Yeah. So how do I even bring pleasure to the parts that I don't necessarily enjoy? I give you an example. For me, I can mentor, which is telling people what to do, like do this and that, but I don't get joy out of mentoring. I get joy out of coaching, right? So every time someone comes to me to mentoring, I change that mentorship to a coaching conversation.
I like that.
Right? So that is a choice I make, right? And this is what we always say, like, you know, nobody's responsible for our career. I own my career path. If I'm not clear as to where I want to go, what I want to do, I can't expect other people to come and help me. Right? So I think I always like to ground everyone back to themselves, because the more you go inside, the more power you have. The more you rely on external, the more victim you become.
No, it's true too, because it's also, you know, that discipline is also solar plexus, which is the next chakra we're gonna dive into.
When it comes to corporate, that's the center of confidence and autonomy.
Yes, and materializing,
right? So to me, this is where empowerment happens. This is where ownership happens. This is where accountability comes into play. This is where people make decisions, right? So when this center is imbalanced, people either micromanage or completely disengage.
Or
right?
control. Yeah.
Right? So micromanage is control. Right? So, like, for example, I've been in situations where I actually had a conversation yesterday. Somebody called me and they're like, and I understand rightfully so, they wanted me to push hard on something. And I listened and I said, you know, I've had some conversations and I need you to take a deep breath and I need you to trust me, because I need to give the team 1 week to do what they need to do. Let's have this conversation in 1 week. If you're not where the results are supposed to be, we can talk about this again, right? And this individual, the conversation from like, I want you to do this now, turned into, hey, this is a safe space. I am venting. I'm having a conversation. I need support, right? So that's the power of coaching. That's the power of balance. Like the old me would say, oh my God, now, okay. So like something is like, what do I need to know? Like I need to go push the team further. I need to go solve this. That would be the old Bahareh. It is no longer me. Now I'm okay to take a risk. I'm okay to say, take a pause. We've already had a conversation. Let's empower the team to do what they need to do. So I'm putting the ownership back onto the team, right? You empower them. And the more you empower them, the more they feel safe to do what they need to do.
And that's a true leader. A true leader lifts other people up because they're balanced in their soul.
I'm growing every day. I'm not there all the time. Sometimes I still lose it. Or sometimes we're human beings, right? It's really important to be compassionate, to be kind to ourselves, right? But remember, I always say my rule is 1% better every day is 37% better in the year.
There you go.
Right?
And she ended off with compassion there, which leads us into the next chakra, which is our heart chakra. It's compassion, connection, forgiveness, love.
Yeah. So when it comes to work, it's about connection and empathy. Like remember, like at work, I spend 8 hours with the same people 5 days a week. That's a lot of hours. Right? So you end up building a culture, and this culture requires compassion. It requires trust. Again, it goes back to psychological safety from emotion perspective, right? And a sense of belonging. Because if you work with the same people 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? They become part of your corporate relationships, right? Extended family, right? So it is that emotional foundation of any team. right? So an example, for example, I like my leadership style, my inherent leadership style is driver.
Is what?
Is a driver. I drive. Okay. I drive results, right? Okay. I can deliver something that is going to be delivered in like 12 months and 9 months. I can do that. Mm-hmm. But in the process, you know, in the past, sometimes I would impact some of my relationships, mm-hmm. right? Because you have to be firm, you have to ask, you have to push, like all that stuff, right? And then my brother-in-law had a stroke about 13 years ago. And he was a successful man. Everything around him crumbled, right? The relationships changed, success changed, everything changed, right? Mm-hmm. That really shifted my perspective. Instead of being a driver, which I still am today, it doesn't mean that you're like the inherent part of it doesn't go away, right? It's still there. You just soften it, mm-hmm. right? So now I show up as a soulful leader. Instead of just driving, I let the team drive. I take a step back, right? So that kind of, you build that relationship. And I find that the more I build those relationships, the more people are willing to do things. Mm-hmm. Instead of me driving, they're driving because they like to do things, right? They see the value in what they're doing. So that builds that sense of belonging, mm-hmm. right?
Also, if you're leading them and empowering them, they're more likely to, you know, be able to sustain the system if you're absent or something happens.
Absolutely. And then they feel safer to step up and mm-hmm. to step in, right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's really important to me.
I love that. All right, moving into the throat chakra, which is what led this whole exploration of the chakras in the corporate system. You said that some people, you know, you can recognize when they have a blocked throat chakra because they're not able to confidently or clearly articulate themselves or their beliefs or their 2 cents or whatever it is that they're trying to express. And the throat chakra isn't also just about the words that we speak. It's also about being able to listen to truths without getting reactive, or it's also talking the talk, but walking the walk.
Walking the walk.
Expressing your truth in everything that you do is a really like, fully expressed throat chakra. So let's hear how you think clear and aligned communication can transform conflict into collaboration or kind of uplift the corporation.
Yeah. So throat is basically communication and truth. Mm-hmm. When I look at it in this context, it's about transparency. It's about alignment. It's about candid feedback. It's about the ability to speak up without mm-hmm. fear, right? It's about like when this center is blocked, then the teams avoid conflict, mm-hmm. right? And issues linger. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people go through this. Like I had a situation where, and the thing is that like the higher you are, the more seasoned leader you are, the more expectation is that for you not to have conflict with people, right? Mm-hmm. And you're expected like conflict, like we have healthy conflict and then we have not healthy conflict, right? Mm-hmm. So the healthy conflict is okay, like because you should be able to safely challenge each other positively. Mm-hmm. That's how like you celebrate each other.
And you can get resolutions too.
That's how you get a resolution. You get different approaches to solving problems and all that stuff. That's good. We're talking about bad, not so good conflict, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes that conflict takes like a conversation. Mm-hmm. Showing up. Like I was in a situation where I had a conflict with an individual and I tried so many different things. I don't want to go into the details of it. Like I tried having conversations. I tried to go around. I tried to talk to, get advice and all that stuff. Nothing was working until after months and months of conflict, right? I was able to get the individual on a call. We just had, and in that conversation, I just sat there and I just told them, what is my role in this? That was the question I asked. I did not even say, oh, like, yeah, I've not been talking to me for 8 months and this and that is causing me grief. And we didn't talk about that. I just asked a simple question. Please help me understand what is my role in this conflict? What have I done? How did I not show up for you to feel that you can't talk to me? Mm-hmm. That changed the whole conversation. Mm-hmm. They got it out of their system. They told me in my presence they were not feeling safe because I overpowered conversations. And that was like, it was not an easy conversation for me to hear. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it increased my awareness. And at the end of that conversation, I sincerely apologized.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I apologize for making you feel that way. That was not my intention, right? How can we work together to move the dial? Mm-hmm. I can't tell you, after that 1 hour conversation, the relationship became day and night.
Mm-hmm. It really ends.
Because this individual just wanted to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
That's beautiful. That's like such a good example of throat chakra healing, because the whole conflict was over not being heard. And then you created that safe space to express without judgment, without reaction. And even you were finding it challenging, and you also healed in that
process.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
In that process. And that's where growth happens. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm comfortable in every conversation, I'm not growing.
Yeah.
Growth happens.
It's also shadow work, that's an example of shadow work right there. It's like it's facing the things about ourselves that we're not aware of, or we don't want to know, or we don't particularly like, and being like, wow, this is how it's showing up, and I can address this now. So it's always a good thing to face these uncomfortable.
Yeah, and the other thing is that in coaching, like as a coach, I'm trained to listen to in between. Mm-hmm. Right? A lot of time people talk about different things, and then there's a lot of things that are not being said. Mm-hmm. So digging deep in that area is what really reveals and helps balance, right? So what is not being said that needs to be voiced, mm-hmm. right? For the person to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised just by asking the simple question, what else? Mm-hmm. What else? That's a very simple question, but it's very revealing.
It is, because then it's like, okay, so people have struggled to get that little bit out, and then you ask what else, and then it's like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, and then sometimes like, I don't know what else. I'm like, what if you knew what else? Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like having that conversation, because a lot of people need to be heard. Like we are not heard. Everything is fast-paced. Everybody's performing. Everybody's doing things. We are all juggling different things, right? So when we take that one pause just to connect and make people feel heard, that's a game changer.
Yeah, it really is. Beautiful. All right, so now we are ascending into the third eye, which is our sixth sense. It is our intuition, our imagination, our vision, our inner wisdom.
I would translate that to vision and insight.
Yes, insight is a very good word right there.
Insight, right? That's the strategic thinking. Mm-hmm. It's the intuition we bring. It's the clarity we bring. It's the foresight, right? Mm-hmm. So leaders that have activated this center, they see patterns. Mm-hmm. They don't miss things.
Yeah.
So one of the things I would have to do, I watch for patterns in my work. And what I always tell people is that, like, when you get to what I do at work, right, I have to predict things 6 months down the road. Mm-hmm. How do I predict that? I predict it based on patterns, based on my intuition, based on years of experience, based on just, okay, so we made an assumption. This assumption is going to turn into a risk. I need to keep an eye on that. We may call out a dependency. This dependency is going to become a risk, right? So I use my intuition and my strategic thinking and the experience, you bring it all together, and then you start providing insight to the team. And that's a really big thing for any leader, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to think what other people don't think, right? So I always ask, what is the bigger story here? What is the biggest story? What is the bigger vision? Like, where are we trying to go? Who is the ultimate recipient of what I do at work, right? Mm-hmm. And that kind of aligns to one of my values, which is meaningful work, right? So I use that to bring meaning to what I do every day. How my strategic thinking is going to help the recipient of what I do. How my intuition is going to move the dial for a team to do bigger and better things, right? How do I ensure clarity around me so people are not guessing? They know exactly what is expected and they have a blueprint to work with, right? I think that's where the third eye comes into play. I don't go tell people, oh, you have to focus here, like all that stuff, right? I don't talk about the chakra balancing part of it, but I always talk to them about how their insight can impact. And the more they trust their gut, the better decisions they make.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's about simple language.
Yeah, totally. All right, so now we're moving into the crown chakra, which is our basically our faith, but for the corporate world, we can connect it to purpose and unity culture. How does that purpose-driven leadership influence long-term success and employment or employee engagement?
Yeah. So I translate that to purpose and alignment.
Okay, right? Alignment. There we go. Yeah, because it's everything.
Purpose and alignment, right? So it's like the why behind the organization I work for, the why behind me wanting to work there, the why behind me wanting to go to the next job, the why behind people that I want to work with, the why behind expectations I have from my own leadership, right? So when people are strong in their why, and I add another layer to it, the why behind their why, right? That creates more meaning behind the work we do. I'm going to use my coaching as an example here, right? So for example, I established Sage and Jew coaching. Why did I do that? My niche is helping successful people find fulfillment in life. Why did I go this route, right? So I asked that question. My values are freedom, meaningful work, growth, among other things, right? So these are really important to me. So when I looked at what I'm doing here, right, my why was to help successful people find fulfillment. Okay. Another one is to empower individuals to find their life's purpose. That's my why. But that's not what's driving me. The why behind the why is what's driving me. The why behind the why is because when I came to Canada, 17 years old with $100 in my pocket and no support, I had no one to tell me what to do. I learned everything the hard way. There was no support system. There was no one to listen to me, to hear me. Not that I didn't have a great support system around me. It's just that nobody was trained. Right? Nobody was trained. Everybody's on autopilot. Nobody was trained to sit there and tell me, okay, Bahareh, like who do you want to be in your life? What is it that actually lights you up? Why do you show up? Why do you want to do this? Why? That simple question. Nobody ever asked me that. So I had to find my own why. I'm 52 years old now. It took me 43 years to get there. It's in the last, 11, 12 years that I'm very clear as to who I am, where I want to go, what lights me up, all that good stuff. 43 years. Right? So imagine if we can start teaching our kids from early ages to define their why, define the why behind their why, right? So they're going to consciously choose who they want to work for. The job that they have, they're going to consciously show up because it is aligned to their why. And when something is aligned to our why, there is no resistance. When I work on my coaching programs, I have no resistance. Everything is flow and grace. I can sit in front of my computer for hours. I don't even know when the time flies. Right? So imagine if everybody does what they do with that mentality and mindset.
No, it's true. I totally get that about flow state. And it's true. I was speaking about this with another guest. It would be really nice to have almost something kind of like the chakra system in whatever language would be appropriate for schools, but for them to kind of learn these fundamentals rather than just going through this system where they're, taking courses that have nothing to do with anything that they'll probably be doing in life,
And to be honest with you, we all want to be of value to other people. We are humans. We all want to be of value. So when you program everything around values, not outcomes, the energy shifts.
Yeah.
What value do I bring? Like today I'm on this podcast. The outcomes are not important to me. Even if one person hears me, even if one person makes a shift, I've done my job. That's enough, right? So in a nutshell, like chakras map beautifully onto a corporate environment, right? They simply reflect our human system that drives the organizational system.
Yes.
And if we all show up grounded and balanced, just imagine what is possible, the art of impossible.
Totally. And I really like the alignment aspect too, because, well, obviously we want to be aligned because that's when we are, stable all the way up. But also really successful brands are very aligned in their core messaging, their visual branding, their partnerships, and everything is in alignment. Like they won't be just taking on a a sponsor, if it's like a misrepresentation. And so that's something that we should also do in our whole lives to live in alignment. Like, are your friends, you know, supporters, or are they kind of like energetic parasites in getting you to where you are? Are they distracting you, or are they supporting you? And is your workplace doing that?
Yeah. So you just reminded me of something very interesting. So I always said this, I'm going to get a bit spiritual here, right?
It's okay. I love it. This is a spiritual podcast. Let's go.
So I believe like quantum physics. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know how much people like quantum physics.
Oh my God, I love it. And it's the same thing as spirituality, in my opinion.
So what I tell people is that when it comes to law of attraction and universe like supporting, a lot of people talk about manifestation, and they're like, oh, if I sit there and I visualize and I have my intention and I write my affirmations, and some people that are advanced, they do affirmations, they ask questions instead of writing. Like there's so many different things. What I tell people is that actually, like, for the universe to give you what you want, you have to build the container to be able to handle what universe is going to give you.
To sustain the new structure you're asking for.
Exactly. So if my container is this big, right, but I'm asking for this big, I need to first build a bigger cup.
Yeah.
Right. To be able to handle what I can. Right. So that's number one. Number two, for the universe to give you that, to make sure you can handle that container, the universe is going to throw you blocks.
Oh my gosh, I've been going through this week.
Yeah. And that's where people give up. It's going to throw you so much to see how much you can expand, how much you can expand, how much you can expand. I use my own example here is like when I was making this shift at work, right? Again, I'm a high performer. I did a lot. I wanted bigger things, right? I actually made a shift. I went to something much smaller because my value, remember, my value is meaningful work. My value is freedom. So I wanted to create more freedom for me to do meaningful work rather than just be busy, right? So I had to consciously choose to shift what I do. And remember, like when we do something, our mind makes the initial move, but then the body takes over. If I'm in autopilot, delivering every day, my body understands delivery, fast pace. So now my mind wants to be more soul-led. My body gets confused. The body said, oh, what are you talking about? For 43 years, you just drove and now you're telling me I want to slow down? It ain't possible.
Yeah.
Right? So when I made that decision at work, my body hadn't caught up. I made a decision. Every conversation I had, I'm not kidding here, I could not have a straight conversation with anyone without crying.
Really?
I spent 3 weeks in the washroom at work, like at least a few hours, crying my head out because my body didn't know what's happening.
It was like rejecting this new regulated state of being.
Everything about me was mess because I'm holding the next container, and the next container for me is to be more, not do more. And I've been a doer all my life.
Yeah. Most people have. I've been a doer. And it took me 3 weeks, 3 solid weeks. That's actually not that long in comparison to the whole trajectory.
Yeah, because of all the work that I've done internally, right? But I'm just giving an example here. It took me 3 weeks to catch up. And now I'm enjoying my new role because I am showing up from my soul. I'm not showing up from my ego.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that the more I let go of recognition, the more I let go of other people's approval of me, the more I showed up aligned to my values, the dynamics changed.
And you actually receive that because you're not in lack of it. You're indifferent.
No, I'm showing up because I'm here to do something. I'm here to bring value. How can I be of service rather than what can you do for me? It's not transactional anymore. And every morning when I get up, I always say, everybody does what they think is best for them. I do what keeps me aligned. And that what a statement just sets the whole thing.
That's a beautiful.
Yeah, everybody does what they think is good for them. So I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to question. I'm not here to change that. I'm here to respect it, celebrate it, and acknowledge it. But I show up the way I need to show up to be aligned. Because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing to me. So the message here is that transformation is not loud, my friends. It is subtle, it's human, and it's very powerful.
And can be very messy.
It can be very messy. And that messiness is beautiful. That's human experience.
That's you facing your shadows.
Facing my shadows and recalibrating and getting out of, as Dr. Joe described.
Recalibrating is a beautiful word for the alignment. You are recalibrating.
Yeah. So I like this quote from Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says, breaking the habit of being yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so we're going to give our viewers one practical takeaway for today. How or what would, if someone only has 5 minutes a day, what can they do to shift from being on autopilot to alignment? Simple steps.
Before you be able to do the simple steps, there needs to be some work. Again, breaking the habit of being yourself. If I'm showing up the same person every day and now I want to change, I cannot expect change. For me to change, I have to be a completely new person. Right? So that's where shift happens. So I don't want to give people false idea that, oh, if you start doing this every morning, now you're all of a sudden you're going to be a different person. No, you have to show up differently. You have to act differently. So what I would, if I were to leave people with one tip, I would say, know your core values. And these are not your parental values. They're not your societal values. These are not the values that everybody says we should have. These are the values that show up in your daily life. Ask yourself questions. Where am I spending my money? If I look around me, what do I have? Am I surrounded by books or am I surrounded by toys? What am I surrounded with, right? Because your values are not what you think your values are. Your values are what show up in your life. Where do I spend my money? Where do I spend my time? What interests me? When do I do something that feels like flow, right? So all that stuff, there's so many questions in my Sage Compass exercise. I go through that with my clients. There's a whole bunch of questions you answer. You find then you look at your lifespan, experiences you had in the past. And then based on those, you can identify what your values are. And by the way, your values change. You have to revisit it every 6 months, twice a year to see, are you still aligned? Are these still my values? They're not set on stone, right? So understand your core values and then understand how those core values are showing up in your life. How are they showing up in your energy? How are they showing up in the way you speak? How do they show up in the way you act? How do they show up in the way you respond? Once you have that clarity, every time you get into a situation, before you respond, this is the 5-second activity now. Before you respond, take a moment to breathe. And just ask yourself one question. Is this aligned or automatic? Coaching is not about difficult questions. Coaching is about simple questions we don't ask ourselves. Is this aligned or is it automatic? For me, every time I have to make a decision, I say, is it aligned to freedom? I'm trying to be free. What does freedom mean? I want to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, who I want to do it, where I want to do it. I don't have restrictions and all that stuff. So how can I get one step closer to that? Now, if I'm going to be offered a job that requires me to work 80 hours, how is that supporting my freedom? Right? Am I going for that job that requires me to work 80 hours because it is automatic, it's nice, it's shiny, it's better and bigger, it's going to give you more recognition, or it's aligned to the fact that I want to be free? That one question right there can be a big yes or a big no, right? Am I aligned? And that's how alignment begins, my friends. It's not rocket science. It's awareness.
Yes, it is. Thank you. That was beautifully said. Bahareh, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your grounded insights and for helping guide us through the chakras of the corporate system. Your work reminds us that alignment isn't separate from success. It's the foundation of it. And to everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in. If this conversation inspired you in any way, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It helps spread the message of alignment and elevation. And you can also connect with Bahareh through Sage in You Coaching. And I will share the links in the replay, but I believe it is sageinyoucoaching.com.
It's www.sageinyou.com.
Okay. Until next time, stay grounded, stay radiant, and keep feeding your chakras.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.